Welcome to the Butterfly Effect. I'm Chris Horner. This is stage 4 of Ruta del Sol, 170 kilometers, and it's going to be an epic stage. This is one of those stages you actually just want to turn this off and go watch the stage right now and then come back to the Butterfly Effect because today's race was absolutely full gas all day long. Now it started off with 2 Category 1 climbs early in the stage, and the second Category 1 climb will end with 110 kilometers to go. And by that time, the break is getting established, and it's a mammoth break. 14 riders in the front group, and Miguel Angel Lopez, second on general classification, is represented. And not only is he in there, but he has 2 teammates with him. Harold Tejada and Alexei Lusenko from Astana are there with the race leader, Lopez. So you know this is going to be an exciting stage when you turn it on because there's 3 Astana riders up there. And right away, you can't miss the red jerseys because Bahrain Victorious are there, and they're represented with not 1 but 2 guys on general classification. Wout Poels and Jack Haig both up there on general classification. It's going to be an exciting stage when you see this combination. And not only do they got the 2 general classification riders from Bahrain Victorious, but they got 2 big-time helpers there in the form of Damiano Caruso and, of course, Mikel Landa. So Bahrain Victorious is looking solid in the front group of 14. Now, everyone else behind this front group of 14 are all there without teammates. Simon Yates is there. He's going to be active. Ben O'Connor, AG2R is represented. Christian Rodriguez, Carlos Rodriguez from Ineos is there. Ivan Sosa from Movistar is up in the front group, and he's on general classification. It's going to be a hard day for Ivan Sosa, covering so many attacks on today's stage. Along in the group, Jefferson Cepeda, Caja Royale, Maury Van Savenhoff from Quickstep is represented up there, and he's going to be active throughout the finish, attacking the group left and right every opportunity he can. Now behind race leader Covey and UAE Team Emirates is pulling on the front. When the cameras came on at 60K to go, I can't tell you exactly what happened in the first part of this race, but I'll give you what I imagine and what must have been a Bahrain Victorious and Astana onslaught of attacks back there that got this group of 14 up. UAE Team Emirates most likely chasing the whole stage with help from Lotto. Now with 60 kilometers to go and only 3 UAE Team Emirates, it's Jan Polanc and Matteo Trentin back there doing everything they can for race leader Covey. It's not going to be enough back there because race leader Covey is on the front at times without his teammates around him. Lotto Soudal missed the move of 14 up front, so they're chasing. Israel Startup Nation's got 1 rider chasing back there because Simon Clark missed the move. Now, to my surprise, when you're looking at the peloton back there, it's Bora Hansgrohe. They have at least 3 riders, if not 4 in this group, and they're not chasing. Even though Emmanuel Bookman was up there on general classification, they decide not to put any guys on the front. So Covey has no help with his UAE Team Emirates other than 1 Israel Startup Nation and 1 Lotto Soudal rider. That's not going to be enough when you look at the combination of 14 riders at the front. When you're looking at these 14 breakaway riders, all GC favorites up there, massive numbers, you got to look at the individual riders. They're all rotating throughout the finish of today's stage. To my surprise, now at some point in time, you got to sit on. You got to decide when you want to sit on. Problem is, if you start sitting on, the chemistry in the group might change and then you start getting attacked. But if you don't sit on, how are you going to cover 3 Astana guys and 4 Bahrain Victorious? What I'll tell you what I would personally do under this situation. When I'm Adam Yates, when I'm Carlos Rodriguez, Christian Rodriguez, Ben O'Connor, any one of those individual riders, Ivan Sosa especially because he was trying to cover everything. If I'm one of those riders, I'm going to try to simplify the math here. It's NASA science that's happening up here, so I got to just simplify it and hope my tactics work. I'm going to look at 4 Bahrain Victorious riders. They got strength in number up there. So if I'm Adam Yates and I'm looking at those 4, I'm assuming that there's no way that you're going to have Damiano Caruso going up the road because he's minutes down on general classification, so he's not a threat there. And then when you look at Mikel Landa, he's not a threat on general classification. So those 4 Bahrain victorious riders have strength in number, but really sending up those 2 riders up the front is not going to help because most likely there's going to be a GC threat with them when the attacks start coming. So when I look at Bahrain victorious, I'm going to take a look at Wout Poels and I'm going to take a look at Jack Haig. Those are my only 2 guys I'm going to watch in this group if I'm an individual single rider, because it's not so complicated to watch 2, but watching 4 is difficult. Now here's the upside if you watch just Jack Haig and you watch Wout Poels. If the other 2 go up the road, like I said, they're not a threat on general classification, so most likely they will kill that breakaway that's up the road. Now, if you're watching those 2 on general classification, Haig and Wout Poels, then there's a good chance that move will go. So you want to be with one of those 2 guys. Now, let's just say Bahrain victorious miss all of the attacks out of this group of 14. Now they have 4 guys. They can bring everything back if they want to because they have 4 riders. So if you're an individual rider in this group of 14, you gotta simplify things. You cannot pull an Ivan Sosa and just be covering every attack left and right till your legs blow up. Now, when we get down to about 40 kilometers to go, it's Mikel Landa who sees a little bit of a split behind him. So he's going to be the first rider in this group of 14 to start the attacks, and he's going to get on the pedals. It'll get brought back shortly, and Astana will get on the front and keep everything under control. Now, let's go back to Astana because they have 3 riders in here. But of course, Harold Tejada is up there on general classification. Lopez is the biggest threat and can take the race yellow jersey at the end of today's stage if all 14 riders finish together. Alexei Lusenko's about 40 seconds down on general classification, so he's a threat. But in my belief, Astana should want all this to come together to the line. Now there's attacks that start coming big time, hitting hard with about 20 kilometers to go. Adam Yates puts in the most impressive, biggest attack on today's stage and looks like this might be the group that's going to split it. He's got some Bahrain victorious help there. Ben O'Connor is in the group with them, and it looks like there's a shot at this move going, but it gets brought back again. Now multiple attacks come and go until 15 kilometers to go. It's Wout Poels and Alexei Lusenko who get a gap on the group of 12 behind. They're working well together, and the group of 12 is not gelling. There's attacks coming left and right as it's Adam Yates back there trying to make deals with the individual riders to get everyone to work together to bring these 2 guys back. It's not going to happen. Attacks just keep flying left and right. Ben O'Connor with 11 kilometers to go throws in a huge attack that looks like it might stick, but again the guys in the back bring Ben O'Connor back, and then the next attack it goes with 7.5 kilometers. It's Jefferson Cepeda back there from Caja Royal. He's doing a great job of trying to get a fantastic result here for the small Spanish team. That attack will get brought back, and then it's Maury Van Savenot who throws in the next attack, and to my disbelief, Ivan Sosa, who's coming out of the ashes. Ivan Sosa was chasing things left and right, and now he's following Maury Van Savenot's attack. I don't know how the kid is finding the legs. He is putting in another attack to try to bridge up to the 2 breakaway guys up front of Wout Poels and Alexei Lusenko, who are working well together and taking what looks like from the couch even pulls in the bike race. Now, behind, after Maury Van Savenot gets brought back, we're seeing Astana, and they're getting depleted numbers because Harold Tejada back there dropped with about 7 kilometers to go. So it's Lopez all isolated on his own, trying to cover the attacks individually all the way to the line. Now remember, again, Lopez was race general classification leader in this group for Astana, and they could have just pulled this group all the way to the finish and had Lopez take the race leader's jersey at the end of today's stage. Instead, they decided to play Lysenko up front. Now, Lysenko, like I said, he is working well with Wout Poels and taking pretty much what looks like even pulls as Lopez is back there fending for himself, covering attacks left and right. Harold Tejada got dropped, like I said, so there's no help there. Now the action is thick and intense throughout today's stage. Now up front with 1 kilometer to go, to my disbelief, it's Alexei Lysenko taking a pull. Now I'll tell you, throughout my professional career, and I'll give you one example, in 2002 I'm riding for Prime Alliance and we're racing here domestically in the US, doing kind of a criterium course, a little bit longer than a crit, maybe about 2 kilometer course but flat. I'm doing the race with a broken foot for Prime Alliance. And I'm in the front group with 1 guy left and we're driving as hard as we can. But I have a broken foot, folks. There is no chance I'm going to go to the line with my breakaway companion. I'm up there only because I know every team back there, every domestic team is chasing like crazy, and my whole Prime Alliance team has a free ride. But I have no plans whatsoever of taking this rider to the line because I got a broken foot. I can't sprint. Now, it was just fractured, right? So I had fantastic form, but with it broken, I couldn't get out of the saddle and sprint. So there was no chance of me winning this stage. Now, when I look at this breakaway here of Alexei Lysenko and Wout Poels, sure, if I'm Alexei Lysenko, I rotate through just a little bit till I find out what's happening in the back, find out if all those individual riders are going to start chasing. But I'm not going to the line with Wout Poels unless I know I can win in the sprint. So remember, Alexei Lysenko has every right with 1 kilometer, if not 5 kilometers to go, to sit on Wout Poels all the way to the finish. Instead, with 1K to go, I'm watching Alexei Lysenko still on the front. Now, with 600 meters, Wout Poels will roll through on the left side of Alexei Lysenko, and now he's on the front. He'll ride the front into the 200 meters to go. Throughout that 400 meters, Wout Poels is looking back every second. I mean, he must have turned around and looked 10 different times to see where Alexei Lysenko was doing back there. At one point in time, Wout Poels even took the time to get on his radio and adjust his earpiece up here to make sure it was properly inserted before the sprint starts. I don't know what you're thinking, Wout Poels. At this point in time, I would have been driving it as hard as I can to put as much time on the GC favorites back there as possible. Instead, he's focusing on winning the stage. He'll get on the pedals with about 200 meters to go, just under. He'll start accelerating with 100 meters to go. Alexei Lysenko pulls up off his back wheel to the left side of Wout Poels. He's starting to accelerate, and then with about 75 meters to go, Alexei Lysenko's legs just blow a gasket, and there's oil leaking everywhere as Wout Poels takes today's stage 4 win. And Alexei Lysenko from Astana finishes second on the stage, throwing his bike. I don't know why he had no chance at winning. Behind, it's Maury Van Savenop, who comes through just over 20 seconds back to win the last podium spot on today's stage 4 as all the GC riders come in just on his wheel. Now, guys, to my disbelief, none of this stage happened exactly the way I thought it was. I knew the stage was going to be exciting, that they was going to blow up. But when you look at the finish with 15 kilometers to go and Alexei Lysenko is pulling even with Wout Poels, honestly, I thought those two must have talked with each other and said, hey, I get the stage, you get the general classification lead, and drive it to the finish. Instead, clearly that was never done. But Alexei Lysenko, instead of guaranteeing the stage win on today's race, he goes head-to-head with Wout Poels and doesn't have the legs and loses the stage. Remember, Astana had race leader's jersey. Lopez wrapped up if they ride their 2 guys and control this group all the way to the finish. Instead, they try to win the stage. They lose the stage. They lose the yellow jersey. Wout Poels, who to my disbelief fought for the stage win over gaining time on Lopez, he plays games all the way to the finish, does win the stage. Congratulations for winning the stage. but only gets in the yellow jersey now by 10 seconds over Lopez. Now, remember, if I'm taking the for sure piece of pie out of that, when you look at that pie and you're thinking it looks fantastic, when I'm in that group of two with Lysenko, I'm thinking the most important thing I can do is get in the race leader's yellow jersey. I have a fabulous Bahrain victorious team behind me to wrap up tomorrow's stage and get as much time as possible. I'm not thinking about the stage. So when I saw Wout Poels fighting for the stage there and looking left and right 20 different times and adjusting his radio earpiece, I thought, what are you doing? If you lose this stage, can you imagine how ridiculous that looks? And you give up time to Lopez back there. Instead, yes, he gets the stage, but it's only 10 seconds on Lopez. Now, if I'm Astana, what am I thinking at the end of this stage? You had the yellow jersey guaranteed if you ride your two guys on the front. Instead, you play the mixed match attacking game and you go with Wout Poels against Lysenko, who aren't close enough on general classification to really fight it out on tomorrow's stage. I'm thinking this is a lose-lose stage for both these teams, and we're going to have to watch tomorrow's stage, the last stage here at Ruta del Sol, to find out which one of these two teams actually won something from this stage. Because Wout Poels' stage win is not enough if he loses the race leads jersey tomorrow to a flying Lopez up the last climb. And of course, Astana stage results out of today's stage 4 is not acceptable when you gave up the race leader's jersey to try to win the stage. Now, Covey back UAE Team Emirates, they'll cross the line, but they lost about 7 minutes. So UAE Team Emirates and Covey are out of the race leader's jersey. No chance of fighting for it in tomorrow's stage. Tomorrow should be exciting. Everyone up at the top 10 here is still very close on general classification. Be sure Miguel Angel Lopez is going to be angry today after not getting the race leader's yellow jersey when it was a given if they just rode into the finish. Be sure Bahrain victorious after giving up time on the general classification. If they lose tomorrow from a flying Lopez, they've got only themselves to blame for going easy trying to win the stage today. Be sure, Alexei Lysenko, man, how did you not make a deal to guarantee the stage win on today's race? That didn't happen either. Man, I think today was absolutely fantastic and spectacular. You guys got to go back and watch it, but there was all kinds of tactics happen that didn't make a whole lot of sense when today's race ended. The only thing that absolutely made sense was it was an amazing race. I enjoyed watching it, and I wish instead of 60 kilometers, I would have had the full 170K to watch. Make sure you guys like and subscribe because tomorrow's going to be action-packed, and we have to find out tomorrow who actually won and got the best out of everybody on today's race. Like and subscribe, and I'll see you guys very soon.